These Teraflex Sport front lower and rear upper fixed flex arms for 2.5 to 3 inches of lift are for those of you that have a 2007 to 2018 JK with that amount of lift that are looking for a good fixed set of control arms that are going to help fix your caster angle and your pinion angle and just be a really strong set of control arms that are going to hold up really well and be less expensive than some of the adjustable options out there or some of those adjustable options that also have Heim joints on them. These are going to be a pretty easy 1 out of 3 wrenches to install on your Jeep. A little bit of disassembly to do, but we are going to show you how to get that done in just a second. So when you're looking for control arms, you're going to be looking for a variety of different things. Usually you're going to swap out your control arms because you need or want ones that are longer, and that's going to help to fix a variety of things. As you lift your Jeep, both axles are going to be moving toward the center line of the vehicle. So in order to push the axles back out and center them under the wheel wells, you'll want some longer control arms. Also, the length of your control arms is going to affect your pinion angle, which is the angle of both of your drive shafts and how they relate to both your transfer case and also the differential in the front and in the back of the Jeep. And also your caster angle up front, which is the angle of the steering knuckles, and what that actually feels like is the steering wheel recentering itself. So if you're making a slow turn in a parking lot, you let off the steering wheel. As you move forward, the steering wheel recenters. That's because of your caster angle, and if you don't have enough caster angle, the steering wheel won't want to self-center, and then it can actually feel like you have a little bit of a wobble or a wander on the highway because you don't have enough caster angle. So in the front, caster and pinion angle are directly related. In the back, all you're worried about pinion, but no matter what your reasoning is, a new set of control arms is going to help solve those problems. Now, an adjustable control arm or a set of adjustable control arms is going to allow you to completely dial in the pinion and the caster angle front and rear of your vehicle. What this is going to be is a set of fixed control arms designed specifically for those of you that have 2.5 to 3 inches of lift. So you don't have to worry about dialing them in. You don't have to worry about making that adjustment. You don't want to have to make sure jam nuts stay tight. So you don't have to worry about all of that stuff. You just bolt these in and your pinion and your caster angle are going to be set for you. This is also going to be a set of 4, the 4 most important ones for setting pinion and caster at that 2.5 to 3 inches of lift. Of course, the length is already preset for you. And like I mentioned before, these are going to be rubber bushings in both ends of all 4 of these control arms. So you're going to get a nice comfortable ride, a nice quiet ride out of these control arms. However, you're not going to get quite as much additional flex as you would get with a Heim joint. So as this control arm moves, it's going to want to move in one plane up and down, but it's not going to want to twist and it's not going to want to move in the opposite plane, where a Heim joint will do a little bit of that additional motion. So if you're doing a lot of off-roading, you want maximum articulation, you'll probably want to look at a Heim joint. The downside, if you want to call it that, are that they're much more expensive. They require a little bit more maintenance. You have to keep them greased, and eventually they are going to wear out probably a little bit quicker than a rubber control arm bushing like this one will. So it really depends on what you're looking for on your Jeep. What this set is really going to be good for is 2.5 to 3 inches of lift. You do some off-roading maybe, but you're not worried about maximum flex, and you just want something that's going to be solid and set your pinion and your caster angle without needing to worry about any sort of adjustability. This kit right here is going to be an incredibly high quality option from Teraflex. They are going to come in at right around that $400 mark, which I think is really fair for a set of 4 control arms like this. It's going to be a great option for you if you are looking for an easy solution to setting your caster and your pinion angle. So this is going to be a 1 out of 3 wrenches for the installation. Let's show you how to do it.
Tools required for this installation: a pry bar, a breaker bar, a 21mm wrench, a 1/2-inch drive with an extension, a 21mm socket, ball peen hammer. A ratchet strap's extremely helpful to get that axle back into place, a 1/2-inch gun to get those bolts and nuts out. Then I use this air ratchet to help get those bolts back in. All right, so as you can see, we have our Jeep up on the lift, all of our wheels and tires off, and I actually have the axle supported with a couple of pull jacks. Now I have a breaker bar with a 21mm socket. I'm going to attack my upper control arm bolts first, just to break these free because I know that they've been in for a while. All right, so now that that one's nice and loose, give another little turn on it, we can attack our lower bolt for our upper control arm. All right, so this is the lower bolt for your upper control arm. Again, I'm going to use my breaker bar just to get things moving. Make sure it's on there nice and square. All right, you can see that tab for the nut starting to move. Once it moves to the forwardmost position, that's when the bolt will actually start loosening up. And once you can get it loose enough that you can get a socket in there for the ratchet, we'll switch up our tooling. All right, so let's bring our socket into place now and get this out the rest of the way. So I wanted to take a second and just show you the tab nut right here. So this actually is inside of your frame rail, and that is what the bolt attaches to. So this is not going to come out of the frame rail. It will maybe fall out a little bit, but when we bring our new upper control arm in place, we'll have to use 2 hands, position that, and also run our bolt through and try to capture that nut on the back. So let's go ahead and get this bolt out the rest of the way. There's that nut. Let's get our control arm out of here. So let's go ahead and get this new rear upper control arm in place. We're gonna start in the front, just to get that captured nut set. I'm gonna put my bolt through and start. I'm gonna find the tab where this rests. Then I'm gonna start threading my bolt. Just like that. So let's snug that up. So we're just gonna snug that up. We'll get our final torque when the vehicle is down on the ground at ride height. All right guys, now moving on to the lower part of the upper control arm. We're gonna position this into place. And it's important to note, I do have a jack stand on the pinion right now, and that's to help me find and locate that hole. So with the jack in place, down a little bit, right there. And we are reusing the factory hardware with that captured nut on the back side. Start that. A socket wrench. Again, we're just gonna snug these up, and then once the vehicle is down on the ground and at ride height, we can give them the final torque. And Teraflex lists all the torque readings on their instructions. That's very nice. So let's tighten up this front one as well. All right, so all the steps you just saw, we're gonna repeat on the driver's side to get that upper control arm in. All right, moving on to the front, you can see that we have our wheels and tires off. We also have the axle support with a couple pole jacks. Now in my hand, I have my 1/2-inch air gun with a 21mm socket and my 21mm wrench. It's the same type of hardware up front, except for we don't have captured nuts. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my 21mm wrench over here and my 21mm socket on my 1/2-inch impact here and just loosen it up. All right, moving on to the front of our lower control arm, it's the same deal, 21mm bolt and nut. We're gonna loosen this up and not remove it just yet. All right, now we're gonna be removing the bolts holding in our upper control arms up front here. I already did loosen up the ones on our driver's side, so I do have the nut on here, just a few threads just to protect the end of that bolt. Let's go ahead and just give this a little tap. All right, we're gonna take the nut off the rest of the way now. All right, so let's separate the bottom of our control arm here from the axle. This is just a pry bar here. All right, now we're gonna remove the nut and bolt for our control arm back here and just wiggle it out of place. All right, with our old lower control arm out of the way, we can bring in our new Teraflex unit. Slide that up into place. We are reusing our factory hardware. We're just gonna hand tighten this for now. swing it into place, and attach it to the bottom. So one of the issues you may run into while connecting the lower control arm to your axle is you can notice our spring right here is actually kinked backwards and pushing the axle towards the rear. So what we have here is a nice ratchet strap. We're going to wrap around our axle tube and our radiator core support right here on the bottom. Put these into each other. And when I get some tension on it, you can actually watch this spring and the axle start rotating forward. So right around there, we should probably be able to get our control arm back into place. So bringing the lower control arm into place, you can see we still have a little bit to go, but I'm just gonna give this a couple more cranks and you can watch that. That's about good right there. Get our bolt started. It's a little off on that side, so let me give it one more. All right, I can start that with the air ratchet. All right, now we're gonna repeat that on the other side. All right, so with our control arms in place, we have our 21mm socket and wrench. We're gonna tighten these up, get the wheels back on, get it on the ground, and torque them down. That's gonna wrap up my install of the Teraflex Sport front lower and rear upper fixed flex arms fitting your Jeep JK with a 2.5 to 3 inch lift. And for all things Wrangler, keep it here at ExtremeTerrain.com.